This one caught me by a real shock here. Rick Tocchet is leaving the Arizona Coyotes. I saw a lot of Yotes fans on Twitter being really, and here's the negative outpour we talk about, a lot of them not see happy by the move, when it feels like not long ago people were really praising this guy for getting a lot out of an Arizona team that is normally pretty beat up. We also see John Tortorella, and this one I think everyone kind of saw coming. Right. There was a nice thing of I think this was the perfect solution. The team and Tortorella mutually agreeing to go separate ways. Tortorella doesn't slap the team in the face by saying I'm leaving. The team don't slap him in the face saying we're not renewing the contract.
Right.
And I do think, say what you want about John Tortorella, an accomplished coach that I think probably, he helped that team. I think what he did with that team before they've kind of probably lost his message, especially after when Panarin and Bobrovsky left. I think he deserved some respect on the way out there. And I think their season is actually done now. And there were Tortorella chants at the game last night, which was pretty cool in the send-off, right?
I mean, like, look at what he did with that team and yes, they added guys, but when they swept Tampa Bay, who had 62 wins, and they were
only playoff series win.
They're right. Like that alone is just incredible. And I think in my perception of what happened in Columbus is what Jarmo Kekalainen did, and maybe it backfired on him, and at least he did it. I think he tried to add some skill to this team that maybe wasn't the best move. And you look at Max Domi, and you look at specifically Max Domi and Patrick Laine, it doesn't seem to have worked the best in Columbus. And I think that's where everything seemed to backfire on John Tortorella.
They really weren't his kind of player. Well, I thought Domi would have been, but I think Laine was, you know what? I refuse to believe that Panarin and Bobrovsky left because it was Torts. Like, I'm a passionate believer, and it was because Panarin wanted to live in New York and Bobrovsky wanted to live on a beach. I mean, like, listen, like, in my perfect scenario, like, I'm retiring in Montreal. Like, that's just the way I want to live my life. I don't want to live in the countryside or anything. I grew up that kind of place. I hate it, right? And I feel like if it was simple as it was Tortorella for Dubois, I don't think that interview he had with Ron McLean would have been so cryptic as it is. But I don't think there's any denying that Tortorella was just so upside down with the way he used Patrick Laine. I don't think there's any disputing that. Adam Wilde from the STP, he said they made a Ferrari into like a Toyota or something. I thought it was a perfect example of it. It's like, let's go off-roading in the new Ferrari, whatever.
Yeah, I think and again, this is Twitter at its finest. I think it was somewhere in the middle where there's blame to be placed on certain players and there's blame to be placed on John Tortorella in the way he handled those players this season. Like, I don't think it's one extreme or the other. I think it's a mix of both. And that's just a reality of being an NHL coach. We could probably go through a list of coaches who have had their time in their job cut short because of the way they have coached the team.
Mm-hmm. A few in the Canadian division this year.
Right.
Half the teams, really. Oh, man, it's been a wild year. You want to say anything about Rick Tocchet? That one still strikes me by surprise.
That one does strike me because I wonder their expectations in Arizona were that maybe they were going to make a push. Like, I don't know. Arizona is always this up in the air team where I feel like I never know what they actually are. And especially this summer, they were literally dangling OEL out, and he's like, okay, well, there's Vancouver, there's Boston, and that's about it. And that should say a lot. Like, you were willing to trade this guy, and now he's here for a full season, which tells me that team is a bit of a mess. I'm curious at what direction this team is looking for next. All it does is just add, including Tortorella, another two coaches to an already large coach pool.
Yeah, Gallant's in there, Boudreaux's in there. Seattle are gonna have a good pool to pick from.
And Montreal.
Yeah, and Montreal. Not to be Patrick Waugh, man. Remember, I can hope. I can really hope for that entertainment in my life. It would be so funny. And then then I'd ask you, who do you see going there? But I think we just kind of listed some of the contenders. I'm sure. I feel like in this coaching domino, the first one to probably fall, you would imagine, would be Seattle. Or because I don't know, are there any guys like of the playoff teams? You don't see Sullivan going anywhere. You don't see, Laviolette. I wouldn't see of the playoff teams. Maybe Montreal is probably the only place, but then see who speaks French. Okay. I'm kind of curious of because you would imagine that the playoff teams aren't going to be doing any sort of hiring, obviously, and they're not going to be doing any firing. And do you really see any of the current playoff teams like Brendan Moore? It sounds like is done, but we're just waiting on details. Coach Q isn't going anywhere. You'd be a fool to get rid of John Cooper. I don't know what Nashville really are and what they're kind of doing with John Hines, but then it's Sullivan, Laviolette. You're not going to go get rid of the guy in Boston. Why can I never remember his name?
Bruce Cassidy.
Bruce Cassidy. Hello, how are you doing?
Trotz, absolutely not.
Maybe David Quinn, because who knows what's going on in New York. They're not a playoff team, though. The West, you're not getting rid of Pete DeBoer in Vegas.
No.
Gerard Bettenard is not going to go anywhere in Colorado. Dean Everson just got there in Minnesota, and they're doing a great job. Who knows what's going on with Berube? I think maybe his contract scenario and how the Blues do in the postseason, but any blemishes to that roster is more from management, I'd say.
Right. Not really.
Maybe we see some hires sooner than later. Some of these playoff missing teams.
I think that is probably it. There's just the teams that I can see making changes are the ones who are now letting go of their coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Columbus, Arizona. I mean, if Dominic Ducharme is back, I'm afraid to come on the podcast that episode because I know it's not going to be fun. There's one team in New Jersey who, what are you doing with Lindy Ruff?
What a weird hire. That's still such a weird hire to me.
You got to decide, is you're going to bring him back for a few years, or are you going to go back to, because I think they did call Gerard Gallant and I don't think he wanted to do it. Now, who knows? Let's see if he's interested in that progress. If they made any, that's about it. I don't see much moving going on.
No. It's going to be a weird year. It's weird, man. I wonder if there's any sort of, maybe what do Buffalo do?
Yes, Buffalo. I forgot about Buffalo.
But then the problem is with Buffalo, are they going to pay anyone? I don't.
Probably not.